which need extensions, which need renovations. All of that suddenly became a part of the NBN's build, which it originally wasn't. That's one of the reasons why we're probably 6 or so months behind in terms of the actual physical rollout. Obviously getting the Telstra deal and the Silcar construction deals have all been part of that, but we wanted to get them right. But in terms of the physical, they had to redesign the network a bit. So there's some suburbs in Brisbane we said we're going to be here, but the exchange that we needed there is just not fit for use. So we're using the nearest exchange, so we've moved suburbs. So a lot of this is guided by availability of Telstra's infrastructure. Secondly, the guys are very determined to ensure they've got enough redundancy. So things called rings have become important in my life. And they won't build anywhere where there's not a ring. And redundancy. Doesn't matter what I say. Oh, no, Minister, we've got to have redundancy. If it gets turned off, we're dead. So where the rings are going. All of these are the sort of factors that have guided where we started. And we are encouraging them to think laterally. So that if there is, say, for instance, in Western Australia, not far from Victoria Park, where we're starting a suburb, there's 3 industrial parks and an airport in Perth. Guys, it would be great if you actually headed in that direction. Yeah, good, thanks, Minister. Going in the other direction, of course. So I am guided by the direction of the rings. Common sense, I think the company is coming to an understanding that common sense should also apply, and if they have a capacity to go in 2 different directions, one is 3 business parks plus an airport, it might be a good idea to go in that direction rather than the other direction first. And we're only talking about differences here between 6 months and 12 months before you start construction, because it's organic now. People think, oh, we're going to be the 3rd release sites. There are no 3rd release sites. We just start growing out from where we're building. So it just keeps rolling out along the rings. So we are trying to take into account factors like institutions, hospitals, business parks, all of that. If they're inside a ring, we might go there first rather than to homes, because it would make sense where you can get a bigger bang for your buck in terms of the output, helping small businesses as well as individual homes, that we can try and do that. But I repeat, engineers, love them. God love them, someone's got to.
Thank you, and it sounds great around in terms of the basics of the infrastructure, in terms of getting some competition back in the telco space. Wonderful. But in the end, it's got to equate to economic value. Where do you see the major sources of economic value being created, and to what extent is that being measured for the future of Australia?
Look, I think Ericsson's just overnight over in Paris, the World Broadband Forum's on. Quigley spoke last year. My counterpart was there overnight. I encourage you to read his speech. He was speaking at a panel session about what sort of applications you would need in the future. He chose not to explain to them that he has a 12 meg down, 1 meg up world plan for the next 7 years, which is actually his plan. But he got into a fight with Google, told them that they were self-interested. But Ericsson's at the conference released some research which showed for every time you double your speed, there's a 0.3% increase in GDP. And so they've only looked at, because not a lot of places to study this for, when you go past 20 odd, 25 meg, go to your cell. But they argue that trend continues up the scale. So each time you double your speeds, about 0.3% of GDP. And Ericsson's, for those who, well, you're all familiar with it, I don't have to explain, they're a wireless company more than they're a fixed line company. So they're not in there boosting the NBN for the sake of boosting the NBN. I mean, they've got a wireless contract. They've got no reason to do international research to show that. But there are clear benefits from studies. I'm sure I'll have to argue this point again with my counterpart, but fundamentally there are studies around the world that show what the connectivity can do to economic GDP growth.
Right. And further to that, does the government have strategies to ensure that happens?
Yeah, so one of the things that I didn't want to talk forever in a speech. It's more interesting to have questions. One of the things, we've got the digital economy strategy, which we released a little while ago. You can get it down off the department's website. We want to be in the top 5 countries in the OECD in a whole range of KPIs. Telework, consultations to doctors via video conference. So we set some pretty tough benchmarks for ourselves by 2020 that we want to get to. And we've got funding, which we've announced some. We haven't announced it all yet. But we've got some funding in there for initiatives that help local governments, help small businesses, even government services. Department of Finance, they say no to everything, but miraculously they slip through some funding for their own department to extol the virtues and look at the benefits of NBN code. Cunning bastards. But at least they were going in the right direction, so I was happy to support it. But no, government delivery. I mean, there's so much we can do. I think there was I can't remember if it was Access or Deloitte's, said the cost of a transaction face-to-face is about $16. The cost of a transaction by telephone is about $5. The cost of a transaction online is about 12 cents. So I think that's why finance woke up and sort of went, ooh, savings to government service. So there's a whole range of things that we're doing. If Andrew over in the corner here, put your hand up, Andrew. I'm sure he can give you the website address where you can have a look at it. But there are some challenging KPIs there for government.
I've got a quick question. Are we going to hit the 1 gig or not?
Yeah, no, 1 gig will be available, I think, by the middle of next year. So I think that initially they tested it and they were confident to do 100, but they're now very, very confident they'll be able to offer.
Because that would be a world's best benchmark.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we'll be you'll be able to buy a gig from NBN, I suspect, by the middle of the year. Middle of next year. Don't absolutely hold me to that date. Engineers are engineers. I get paranoid when you give a date like that. But no, I agree with you. Google have said they're doing their gig build out in the US, and South Korea have announced that they're now upgrading to a gig as well. So we will be leading the world by the middle of next year in terms of what we're offering.
And the harder question, I suppose, is I've actually read your digital economy paper. I don't know how many people we have. But we've got the technology, you've got the strategy. How are you proposing, or how are we looking at to manage the cultural, societal change programs? I mean, we've got a strategy, and that's great.
Yeah.
We've got a vision, we've got a technology, and that's good. But in any success, there's got to be a cultural, strategic change program to bring society across to us. How do you
Yeah, look, I'm going to name him and give him a hard time now. The Chief Technology Officer at NBN appeared at a conference recently. You can read about it in one of the websites, and he made the point that we're an engineering company. We don't do sales. I don't think that view will prevail inside the organisation for much longer. I think NBN recognise they have a role to help generate interest and explanation of the benefits of the NBN. So I think you will see NBN Co step up. I mean, I'm not being unkind to Gary or Mike. They've called themselves to me, oh, we're the plumbers, Minister. We're building this fantastic, world-class broadband network. And our job is to design it, get the contracts done. All of that is now done. So they are now turning their attention to how they can start to explain to the Australian public the benefits. So I think you'll see NBN Co doing it. I think you'll see the government start doing it. If I could encourage you, particularly from Sydney, don't panic. If you were to just read the Daily Telegraph or the Australian or listen to the shock jocks in Sydney, you would think the NBN has fallen over already. We've actually stopped building it and we've curled up in a ball and gone home. Nothing could be further from the truth. The government recognises that we have a job to do to sell it. And for the last 12 months, we've been working on a range of other policy areas, but I think you will find early in the new year that the government steps up and begins to lead that cultural discussion about the range of areas that it can make changes in. What I've really been waiting for is real people to be experiencing it and talking about its benefits. I mean, the people who moved, and there are 2 companies that moved from Sydney to Kiama, just so they could be in the NBN footprint. We're talking about a footprint this big, okay? They sold up, took the kids out of school and moved to Kiama, just so they could get on. And you've got a bloke in South Australia, done exactly the same, moved from Adelaide to Wollonga, just to be on. We've got a winemaker, I talked about the sort of applications. We've got a winemaker in Wollonga. It's a tiny little, beautiful little town, about an hour's drive south of Adelaide. And it's a winemaking area, surprisingly, for South Australia. And he says, look, the simplest thing for me is I'm going to have wine tastings via video conference. Screen will come on, and instead of me flying to New York, because most of his product is exported, instead of me flying to New York, we'll send all the wine over, the screen will come on, they'll be on that side of the screen, the bottles will be lined up, the glasses will be lined up, my bottles will be lined up on this side of the screen, my glasses will be lined up, and I will hold my wine tastings by video conference. So those are the sort of examples that will run over the top of the sort of negative carping attacks that you're seeing. When it starts to save lives, when you're seeing the elderly living a more enriched life because of the fabulous new advances in sensor monitoring, but even a little R2-D2 robot. And the guys not Fujitsu, it'll come to me in a sec. They're doing an aged care test, and they've got this little R2-D2 robot. You know, it's like R2-D2. I thought, oh my God, geeks, they put a robot into an aged care centre. This is going to be a disaster. Seriously, within a week, the little robot was calling the bingo. They loved it. Okay? Calling the bingo. And that's a funny little anecdote about what it's doing. But what it was also doing at the same time was it was monitoring their faces. It was able to look for the signs of the little ticks that might have affected them in a medical sense. So it was an early warning system that there might be a little medical problem because of that. So it was scanning their faces. As it's wandering around doing its things, talking away, chatting away, calling the bingo, it's actually monitoring them as well, getting early detection. So that's the sort of examples which are going to just run over the top of the small-minded people who think that all we need in this country is more wireless, or all we need in this country is 12 down and 1 up between now and 2018. So I think ultimately the actual applications, that some that are already built, and of course many that people haven't conceived of yet, that are going to come. I mean, Google as the iPhone, 4 or 5 years old. When they launched the iPhone, how many apps were in the App Store? Anyone know? Anyone